You know what's great about the hunting industry and hunting in general, deer hunting, is that this is something that makes memories to last a lifetime. There's so much fun in hunting, family fun, really high quality time. And as deer hunters, we know that. Unfortunately, a non-hunter, they just don't get to experience that. Along with that excitement though, the bad thing about that, there's a good and bad, is that in the deer hunting industry, there is a gadget, there is something that is a fad for everyone out there. And with that eagerness to shoot those giant bucks, I mean, let's face it, even buck fever, we all get that excitement. Hopefully more after the shot than during the shot. I mean, I shake like a little kid, you know, when I get that after that shot, and you have to collect yourself for a little while in your deer stand. It's not even safe sometimes even climb out of your deer stand initially after that shot. You're just so keyed up. But when you're that jacked up, a lot of times it's hard to resist the temptation to buy or use or try the latest fads. And I'll say one fad that came out in the late 90s. I'm gonna go over 5. I'm gonna even throw a bonus in there or 2 or something. But in the late 90s, sometime around there came out the moon predictions. And the moon predictions for when the rut would be. And boy, I scarfed that up because, again, I was excited. I wanted to try to find out. I met a guy named John Azoga in the UP of Michigan. And he basically broke it down to me out of a couple thousand ultrasounded does, whatever it was, just like they can take a woman, go back to the day of conception, and they can see exactly how old that baby is. They can do the same with fawns, get a very accurate timing of when the rut is, and you'll find the rut is the same time every year. So if you're using a moon prediction to predict this year's ruts, throw it away. Now, you can actually predict the rut by looking at the fawns in your area when they're dropping. When they drop, you count back, and you could figure out the day of conception when that approximate rut is. There's a variance in the rut every year, sometimes because if you have a giant mature buck on your land, then he's gonna lay it down a lot of sign early. He's gonna, in that pre-rut, let's say Southwest Wisconsin here, that last 10 days of October, there's gonna be a lot of sign on your property. If you do not have that mature buck and you live somewhere else, you're not gonna see a lot of sign. So one person will say, wow, look at all the sign I have on my property, end of October, the rut's taking place. A buddy 2 miles away, I'm not seeing anything. And so a lot of times you're getting, hey, that person's saying the rut didn't start till early November. Well, it's because they didn't have a mature buck on their land. And this person's saying it started on October 20th because they had a mature buck. So there's some variance in there. So you got to pay attention to what bucks you have on your land and when you're seeing them. And that'll tell you. But a lot of those moon predictions for the rut, they don't have anything to do with the timing of the rut. Now, there are some times that it can affect the feeding cycle, to me, you know, whether it's a well-lit full moon night versus a dark night. They might feed a little bit more at night versus not a lot. But to me, I use purely the weather to predict when I hunt, the drops in temperature, the major swings of weather change, whether it's wind or temperature or extreme weather. You can always predict when there's going to be good movement with the weather. The moon, for example, if it's a great moon prediction, but it's bad weather, I'd stay out of the woods, wouldn't even try it. Now, if it's a great weather day and a bad moon phase, always go sit in the woods. You can't miss those weather days. They're 80–90% of the movement, especially during daylight, just shifting a little bit for that mature buck that might come out a half hour after daylight versus a cold evening when he comes out a half hour before. Just a little dip in the weather. So to me, it's been a long time. I've had some good advice, good experience since the early 90s based on the weather. But those moon phase predictions, they really can lead you, they'll lead you to success if the weather's good. So to me, they are a big fad. Now I'm gonna come up with a second fad here. You don't need to carry pee bottles to your woods, to your stands. And I've gone over this before, but urine scent from a human turns into about the same smell as any other mammal on the planet. You know, 20 minutes, half hour into it. Yeah, the chemical composition might be different, but really for scent purposes, if a deer passes by, you know, 20 minutes later, half hour later, they're not going to know the difference. And so why carry that nasty pee bottle in your backpack or storing it in the corner of your blind that's been there for 2 years? You don't need to do that. Carrying a pee bottle is something you really don't need to do. Now, a third fad, and this is something I've been seeing lately. There's a lot of really cool hunting boots out there that are coming on the market. And it seems like a lot of younger hunters are using them, and partly has to do with looks. It looks good to wear these nice, fashionable boots in there. But really, since the 80s, I've relied on rubber boots to make sure I don't leave that scent trail in or out. Any type of material, leather, material, cotton, mesh, whatever it might be, has the ability to hold human scent and all kinds of scent a lot longer than just simply rubber. Now rubber, you could say, holds a little bit of scent too, and I understand that. But, and then I love those scent elimination sprays, and that's one more layer of protection. But the more we rely on simple gadgets, scent contraption gadgets, or even scent elimination, and not have clean clothes, clean boots, then we're getting away from those basics and those roots that can really help you make sure that you're not leaving a scent signature when you're going into the woods and out of the woods. And those rubber boots, whether the rubber bottom, full rubber boots, they can really help you, what I found over the decades, eliminate your scent. Yeah, some of those new boots might look really good, but they contain, if they have mesh, if they have texture, they have the ability to hold a lot of scent when you're going into the woods, and that can really hurt you when it comes into the fall. One thing that, another fad that I see often, and this has been going on for decades, is some type of scent, lure, gel to attract deer to your stand location. Now this is a tough one. I went through this back in the 80s, 90. I can remember purchasing with hard-earned dollars from probably shoveling snow or mowing lawns, some scent attraction that I thought I was going to put on a tree. And of course I'm young, so then I buy this expensive bottle of whatever and I put it all out in that single sit, and thinking, hey, I'm just going to double down. I'm going to get this buck, this sit. And so I pour the whole bottle out, and now I'm actually feel guilty that I spent the money and spent that, and of course don't see a deer. You know, sometimes you see deer by coincidence, sometimes you see deer out of curiosity. But we, for example, use mock scrapes. I've been using mock scrapes for decades. For one, I just pee into the mock scrape, and that works. Again, going back to, you can pee in the woods, the deer aren't going to care. But two, I never put any scent, lure, gel, whatever it might be, on that mock scrape lipping branch, because every buck that goes by, every doe, every fawn, leaves their preorbital gland scent on the end of that stick. And I just feel like there might be a man-made scent out there that's better. I haven't found it. I haven't tried it. And what I mean by that is that if you put that on that end of that licking branch, in theory, you're covering up all that goodness that's already there, that wealth of goodness that I call it, from the accumulation of every deer that walks by. And natural is always best. And let's face it, a lot of times you're hunting a situation where deer are moving right here in front of you. So they're moving left to right, the wind's in your face. And unless you're putting scent out 50, 60 yards away from your bow stand in some way to turn a buck when he's already coming by, it's pretty hard when the scent's blowing in your face to walk to your stand and then walk past your stand to put out some scent and then walk back to your stand, often walking to the travel corridor that you're watching and leaving your scent around. To me, no scent is better than trying a lot of different scents and gels and just getting back to the basics of leaving no scent behind and going from there when it comes to really dedicating your hunt, getting back to those predatory roots. Now, a fifth fad that I see, and you know, a lot of these fads, if you look at them, a lot of the most successful hunters, whitetail hunters out there, don't use a lot of these unless they're paid for commercial or paid by the hunting industry for product sponsorship. But they don't use them because, you know, really you need to get back to the basics, and that's what really works, getting back to our roots. You know, again, no scent signature, using quiet gear, not leaving a lot of scent behind, not relying on, you know, gels and lures, moon predictions, things like that. You know, just get out in the woods and enjoy. The weather is a tried and true fixture, but excessive scent elimination processes where, you know, you're going through this extensive scent elimination with powders and sprays and setting your clothes out, and really going overboard and taking an hour for this scent. I know guys, literally hunters, that it takes an hour from the time they're going from their truck just to get ready to walk in the woods, because they're taking so much care in scent elimination. And really, if you're keeping your clothes clean, if you're using rubber boots, you're getting in and out without spooking deer, you're not leaving that scent signature trail. If your scent's blowing at a mature buck, 5-6-year-old buck, that's 30 yards away, you're gonna spook them. So really look at some of these fads, and I'm gonna throw a sixth one in there just to tick off more people, but traditional archery equipment. I have mad respect for traditional archers in today's age. They can keep a baseball sized group at 20 yards and they can transfer that to the deer stand, and they keep your hunting to 20-25 yards at the most. They know their limitations. I personally don't choose to use traditional gear because I like that ultimate challenge with the bow, knowing that I can take a deer out to 40-50 yards if everything's perfect and I've done my job, and I can still keep that baseball sized group at that distance. And you know, with today's modern equipment, 20 yards, a baseball sized group with new hunters is realistic. Just going out and shooting their bow for the first time and getting that dialed in, that's not too far out. It used to be paper plate size at 20 yards, and folks, if you can only keep a paper plate size group with a crossbow, a vertical bow, or a traditional bow at 20 yards, you probably shouldn't be in the woods at that point. So traditional bows have been more of the fad, especially with more that millennial age, and kind of want to get back to our roots. Let's shoot a traditional bow. It all sounds great, but boy, you got to practice an awful lot to shoot that traditional bow competently. And just because you say you have that traditional bow, if you're going out and compound bow or crossbow, if you're going out and wounded a bunch of deer and you can't find those deer, you're missing deer, then you shouldn't be in the woods. Doesn't matter what weapon you have. And while we're at it, you know, the traditional bow versus compound versus crossbow, I hear people talk down to those different groups. You know, someone who has a vertical bow, they don't think someone should be using a crossbow, and I see that kind of talk. And hey, it's all about going back to that baseball size group. I don't care what weapon you have, if you can keep a baseball size group at whatever yards you're going to shoot, then that's a great way. It's a great test before you're going out in the woods, and knowing your archery limits. Doesn't matter what you're shooting, and who cares what someone else is hunting with. We need all the hunters we can get in today's day and age. We need all the bow hunters. We have drastically shrinking bow hunters. The average age of a bow hunter is older than I am. I'm 49 years old, but the average age is getting older. We need hunter recruitment. I don't care how you're hunting, just enjoy it. Make sure you're being ethical. And those are some fads that I'm talked about. And I want to talk about a couple fixtures. This redneck blind behind me, scent containment blinds. When you can sit in a blind like that and open a window, that's going to be a fixture for years to come. They have scent containment blinds where it's not letting scent out. It's not like a pop-up where the breeze just blowing through. Really limited. It traps that scent in there. You still have to worry about scent. Of course, you have to worry about access, not leaving a scent trail in and out, keeping your clothes clean, hunting in the right days, using the weather like I do. There's a lot of great fixtures out there. This is one of them, hunting out of a scent containment blind. Mock scrapes, vertical scrapes, outstanding tools, census tools. I've used scrapes for census tools, buck ID, live buck ID, determining the exact time he's on your land. There's a lot of things you can do with a mock scrape. Check out my playlist for that. Really good fixture. And keeping your clothes clean, using the weather predictions, weather forecasting is certainly a fixture in the hunting industry. I've been writing about it and trying to teach people how to hunt by the weather for over a decade. I have a book out, All Weather Whitetails. These fads, they could by luck lead you to success. Some of these fixtures, they can lead you to success. Know the difference between the two, and you'll have a great hunt this fall. Don't be misled by some of these fads. Just get back to your roots, try to be the ultimate predator. And if you try to get on and off your property during the right times of the weather, right times to hunt, and you rely on some of these fixtures I talked about, you're going to have a great hunt this fall.